Well, when we heard that President Biden had actually signed the Big Cat Public Safety Act into law, I think the cats probably could have heard me scream from 5 miles away because I was so happy that this has finally happened.
So thanks again for speaking to me. It's good to see you.
Same here.
So first of all, massive congratulations for the passing of the bill. You must be ecstatic. It must have been the best Christmas present you could have wished for, no?
Best Christmas ever.
Absolutely. So I mean, obviously, Christmas over there at the Big Cat Rescue must be a huge endeavor. But I mean, this year must have been, you must have celebrated in a way that you've never celebrated so far. How did you celebrate that in together as a family, but also at the cat rescue?
Well,
How did you
unfortunately,
celebrate?
unfortunately, I've been sick, so I have not been able to celebrate. But we are planning to go to DC and meet with all of our lobbyists the end of next month so that we can celebrate it properly.
Fantastic. But what about with the cats themselves? Because I was watching a few videos just previously to the interview, and obviously they've been opening presents and you've been singing to them and things like that. How do you celebrate with them? I mean, especially something like this. Obviously, you can't transmit to them that this bill is being passed. But how do you kind of spend Christmas? And how do you kind of how did you transmit to the cats and the sanctuary that there's something to be celebrated about, that you've been fighting, rallying for the best part of 30 years? No.
Well, when we heard that President Biden had actually signed the Big Cat Public Safety Act into law, I think the cats probably could have heard me scream from 5 miles away because I was so happy that this has finally happened. One of the things we used to do at the end of our tours, when we gave tours back before COVID, is the very last thing we would take people to was a memorial wall of the 200 cats who have been rescued and ended up dying before this bill passed. And what we would ask them to do is contact their member of Congress to ask them to support the Big Cat Public Safety Act before one more cat ended up on that wall. And so now when I see that wall, I think how grateful I am that not one more cat had to die in a cage before this became the law of the land. And, you know, it's, of course, the cats who are stuck in cages right now are never going to know freedom, but at least they're never going to have their youngsters or their cousins captured and put into captivity for the purpose of this. And so I think it's got to mean something to them in the long run.
Absolutely. I mean, obviously, we're talking about the cat safety here, but you had reason to feel kind of scared for yourself now. And finally, I was reading an interview that you did recently that you also felt very safe now because that you've managed to get this passed now through the Senate. And so you also feel not only the cats are safe now and in safer hands, but also you feel in safer hands as well now.
Well, I did up until today. So
really?
The main thing that these animal abusers have been threatening my life for is they never wanted to see the Big Cat Public Safety Act become law. And they mistakenly thought that if they could kill me or silence me, somehow it was going to stop this train. That was not going to happen. But then this morning, I got an email from a person who says, I own exotic cats and this is war and you're going to end up being killed if you try to take our cats away. And I said, well, you know, nobody's going to take your cats away. You just can't get any more. So we'll see whether or not that diffused that situation. But apparently the crazies are coming out of the woodwork now.
I'm sorry to hear that. But I mean, obviously, the fact that you've got the Senate behind you now, that obviously must give you some kind of sense that you know that what you've been fighting for all this time is finally, it's actually means something, and people will realize that, you know, it's not just what they see on Netflix and all these kind of things, that you've really been fighting for something that means a lot to a lot of people, and Senate have actually taken it in and accepted it. It's going to be signed by the president, and this kind of people should respect you and not see you as kind of this person that we've seen in these documentaries and these things that we've seen you in before. No.
Well, I don't care if they respect me or not, but I am glad that no matter what happens to me now, even if I just accidentally walk out in front of a bus, this is done. It is law, and it is finally what we needed as the first step to saving tigers in the wild, because all of this public ownership, private ownership in the United States was causing a legal smokescreen for illegal activities like poaching, and now that's over. So I think we actually have a chance, the entire world has a chance to save big cats in the wild where they belong.
Absolutely. And also I was watching, you did a Q&A on YouTube with your husband, Howard, as well. And he was talking that it's not just about the big cats, but also you've had this. There's a chance that you can save the smaller big cats as well now, because the ones that are living in the wild, who kind of they have to find food for themselves, so they will maybe attack animals on farms and things like this, and so this causes kind of friction between humans and the smaller big cats that are in the wild. So this, in a way, has also helped you to protect kind of the relationship that there is between farmers and these kind of people who could seek revenge against these kind of animals as well. No, how has this act help how do you help those kind of relations that could be quite a bit of friction in the air there?
Well, there's a couple of things. One is that no ecosystem can survive unless the apex predators that belong in that ecosystem are thriving. So by saving big cats from all of the issues that are causing their extinction, such as the poaching and the retribution killings, because of the fact that here in the US, it's been so impossible to prosecute somebody. If you were caught wearing a tiger tooth necklace, and that it is a violation of the Endangered Species Act, and it should result in a 5-year sentence behind bars for you and a $20,000 fine. But because the US allowed private ownership of big cats, all you had to do was say that that was your pet tiger, whether it came from the wild or not. And then there's no there was no enforcement of protecting those big cats. So now with the Big Cat Public Safety Act passed, it means that if you get caught with a tiger tooth necklace, it can't be your pet tiger, and it must have come from the wild, and therefore you will be held accountable, which is going to protect those big cats in the wild. And so those umbrella species protect the smaller cat species as well. But another way that this will really help is now that I don't have to spend all of my freaking time trying to get this Big Cat Public Safety Act passed, the Big Cat Rescue can actually fund a lot more of the conservation efforts that we currently fund. We currently spend about $100,000 a year for smaller cat species to protect them in the wild. And we'll be able to spend more now that we're not having to spend so much on lobbying.
And at the same time, people are still going to be able to help you. Obviously, you said that people, you just had this morning, you had someone threatening to come at you because you are trying to kind of protect the rights for cats, but other people can help you, and they have been doing. But this is something that we're going to have to carry on working in a big way. I know that a lot of the cats that you can save is through the help of other people giving you tips and things like this. Now, this is something that I imagine, even though that we've got this ban passed now, that this is something that's going to be a huge help in the future. No, that other people can come directly to you.
Yeah, I tend to get all of the credit for this bill, and I should not, because my husband is actually the person who has really been leading this charge. And it has been huge organizations like the International Fund for Animal Welfare and the Humane Society of the United States and Born Free, and all of these organizations working together. And we have always had a tip line, and people will still, in fact, I just got some tips yesterday about some poor cats that are being kept in the ecology center in terribly tiny cages. But we still take those kinds of tips and we publicize those so that people know not to visit places that are really not taking care of these animals the way they should.
And I imagine this the same. I mean, for me, social media is a very toxic place, but at the same time, I imagine that social media is also, it's a very good place to help you find people who post photographs of things that they shouldn't be doing, and you can finally root them out and report them.
Yeah.
That social media must have its great stuff, but at the same time, obviously, there's all this toxicity there. But it must be really helpful for and for what you're trying to achieve. No,
it is a double-edged sword because, as you said, people can be really obnoxious on social media. And there's been so many horrible things that have been promoted by people who just didn't know any better. You know, they see some picture of somebody holding a cub or bottle feeding a cub, and they think, oh, isn't that cute? And they share it. And they don't realize that that has been what has caused so many of these animals to be snatched from their mothers, used, and then discarded. But now that that's illegal, I think it makes it so much easier when somebody sees something like that to say, did you know that that's illegal? And that would, I hope, cause people not to share those things the way they have in the past.
Absolutely. And then at the same time, obviously we've got this ban, and we've got all these people that can help you. But at the same time, you've got I would say about 100 shorts or so that you've produced that are also going to be are available to stream now. no, it's about 150 short films, no, that you've launched on Unchained TV. Can you tell a little bit about how that came about and what the people can see if they go to visit this the channel, and because they can see what is actually happening to these cats, no?
Jane Velez Mitchell is behind Unchained TV, and I met her back when she was a reporter for CNN, and she was helping us try to put an end to a tiger that was being kept at a truck stop. And so that was when I first got to meet her, and I think it was probably in about 2010. But recently, Earthstream TV, which is where we had been posting a lot of these videos, merged with Unchained TV, and they asked if we would be willing to share our videos over there with Jane. And so, of course, I said, absolutely, we would love that. So her television channel is just dedicated to animal lovers. It's all animal type films. And Big Cat Rescue does have about 150 of our videos of the cats running and playing and having fun, as well as some educational content too.
Mm-hmm. And then something else I was reading in a recent interview was that one of your hopes, now that this ban has been passed, is that you hope that eventually you won't have to run this sanctuary as long anymore. That's something, obviously, there's something you love and cherish because you're able to help in that way. But at the same time, you'd love to be able to not have to have this sanctuary anymore. Is that the way that you'd like to go in the future? You try to hopefully.
So many people say you're so lucky you get to be around lions and tigers and bobcats every day. And for me, it is the saddest thing ever to see these animals in cages. So I am thrilled that this is coming to an end. The day that I can shut the doors to this sanctuary are getting so much closer, and that there won't be a need for places like Big Cat Rescue to rescue animals from horrible situations. We just won't have those horrible situations thanks to the Big Cat Public Safety Act passing.
Mm-hmm. But even that, I mean, having said that, you'd like to be able to close the sanctuary, I'm sure that you've got something else that you'd like to do in mind, that because aside from the sanctuary, I imagine if that does come to fruition, hopefully will happen sometime in the near future, I'm sure you've got an idea of what you would go to do next to help some other animal or something else. What do you think or maybe even write about it? I don't know. What have you got any kind of plans for in the next 5 or 10 years? If that did come to fruition, then you didn't have to look after the sanctuary as much as you do now.
It'll always be about cats. Big cats, little cats. I love cats. And so I'm not going to plan rescuing bears or wolves or primates or anything else. What I want to do is to help these animals survive in the wild. And I think there are, in addition to the conservation programs that we donate to, I think one of the big changes that I see for the future is that in order to protect wild spaces and the wild animals that live there, we need to make that the theater that people depend on to see those animals. As long as you can pay $10 and see an animal in a cage at a zoo, you're never going to do the important work of saving them in the wild. And so I can see a world where zoos completely remake themselves into location-based experiences. And when you put on a headset in the zoo, you're seeing a snow leopard running in the wild, hunting those doll sheep, and you can feel the cold air because they're blowing cold air on you, and you can smell the yak stew from the tent next door, and you have this experience of seeing that cat in the wild through 360-degree live cameras doing what it really does. That's really education, and that's really entertainment, so much more so than seeing an animal pacing in a cage. And so I think that's what all of us have to demand for our interaction with these animals, that it be on their terms in their environment and not with us encroaching on them in any way other than these remote cameras.
That's fantastic. Well, once again, thank you so much for your time. I'm so happy that after so many years of hard work, it's the ban has finally been passed, and I hope you get a bit better and enjoy the rest of the Christmas and the New Year.
Thank you so much, Howard.
That's fantastic. All the best. Take care then. Bye now.